For more than 60 years, a single powerful organization has literally shaped Pakistan's capital city, Islamabad. We're talking about designing it, building it, and running the whole show. But this is a story of more than just concrete and steel. It's about incredible vision, immense power, and right now, a battle for its own survival. Let's get into the story of this city-shaping giant.
So, who actually runs Islamabad? It seems like a pretty straightforward question, right? You might think of an elected mayor, maybe a city council. But for decades, the real authority, the real power, has been in the hands of a very unique and incredibly powerful organization.
And here it is, the Capital Development Authority, or, as everyone knows it, the CDA. It was created by an executive order way back in 1960. And its mission? Well, it was monumental. Build a brand new capital city from scratch, and then run it. And for over half a century, that is exactly what it did.
To really get what the CDA is all about, you have to go back to the very beginning. You've got to see just how deeply its identity is woven into the very fabric of the city itself.
Okay, so the CDA story kicks off in 1960 with the massive job of building a nation's capital. By 1970, its role was already getting bigger, moving beyond just construction and into social services like schools. But then, in 2016, things got really interesting. A lot of its day-to-day duties were handed over to a new, elected body called the IMC. And that move, it basically set the stage for a major power struggle that would eventually lead to a court order threatening to end the CDA for good.
So let's talk about the CDA's actual, tangible impact. We're talking about the roads you drive on, the parks you walk through, the very look and feel of Islamabad that you can see and touch today.
If you want to understand the CDA's power, just look at this number, 700 canals. Now, a canal is a local unit for land, and 700 of them is a huge area. We're talking about 87 acres of land, and the CDA recovered all of it from illegal settlements in just one single operation. That right there shows you its authority isn't just about building things, it's also about enforcement on a massive scale. This really paints a picture of the CDA as the city's master builder. I mean, if you've ever driven through Islamabad, you've experienced their work firsthand with these enormous projects like the zero-point interchange. But it goes way beyond just roads. They've also been modernizing the city, installing thousands of energy-saving LED streetlights, and even preserving history by transforming the centuries-old Sidepur village into a beautiful cultural spot.
And it's not all concrete and asphalt. The CDA has put a lot of work into making Islamabad one of the greenest capitals in the world. They've teamed up with different organizations, launched some really cool projects like Miyawaki urban forests, and planted thousands of trees. They're also thinking about the future, building over 100 rainwater wells to help replenish the city's groundwater. That's a critical move for sustainability.
So yeah, their job is incredibly broad. You can see here the biggest chunk of their work, about 40%, is that core mission of planning and designing the city. But then another 30% is managing and maintaining everything that's already there. And on top of that, they're responsible for public services and modernizing the capital's digital infrastructure. It's a huge, complex operation. But, whenever you have that much power concentrated in one place, you're going to have controversy. The CDS story isn't just about shiny new developments. It's also filled with some really tough decisions and some very serious accusations.
And this is where the story gets a lot more complicated. That drive to keep Islamabad looking perfect, to stick to the original master plan, has led to actions with some really deep human consequences. We're talking about the demolition of informal settlements, slums, which were home to some of the city's most vulnerable people. Now, what's so important to understand here is the difference in how these actions were justified. Publicly, the CDA said the goal was to remove illegal buildings and protect the city's environment. But in a court filing, they gave a totally different and way more controversial reason for targeting these specific communities.
Here is the exact quote from that court justification. I'm just going to read it as it was written. It seems this pace of occupation of land by Christian community may increase. Removal of Kachiabadis is very urgent to provide a better environment. Kachiabadis is the term for these informal settlements. And, as you can imagine, that statement set off a firestorm of criticism from human rights groups and put the CDA's real motives under a microscope. This number really helps put the CDA's power into perspective. A budget of almost 92 billion Pakistani rupees for just 1 year. That shows you the kind of financial muscle they have behind their decisions, both for the popular infrastructure projects and for the deeply controversial demolitions.
And all of this brings us to the final act, a legal showdown that threatens to bring the CDA's entire 60-year history to a very sudden
Very dramatic end.
So, in the summer of 2025, the Islamabad High Court just dropped a bombshell. It wasn't a ruling about one specific project or controversy. No, this was about the very foundation of the CDA's authority to even exist.
At the very heart of the ruling was this one key declaration from the judge. He found that the CDA's power to collect taxes, which is, a core part of how it operates, was based on an old law from 1960, and he ruled that this old law was now illegal because it clashed with a newer law that set up an elected local government. In a nutshell, the legal ground the CDA had been standing on for decades just vanished.
So what did this actually mean? The fallout was huge. The court didn't just limit the CDA's power, it ordered it to be completely dissolved. It said that the old 1960 law and the newer Local Government Act couldn't exist at the same time. The verdict was crystal clear. All powers, all assets, all responsibilities, everything had to be handed over to the elected Islamabad Metropolitan Corporation.
And so we're left with this enormous question. After more than 6 decades of shaping every single part of the capital, from its grandest highways to its greenest parks, the powerful, controversial Capital Development Authority is now facing an order for its own demolition. The future of who runs Islamabad is more uncertain than ever before.